Hey everyone! Show us your appreciation for our hard work by going and supporting our sponsor, the War for the Tower podcast. You can find them by searching War for the Tower on your podcatcher or going to warforthetower.com.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 8, Episode 3. Robot of Sherwood. In this episode, Clara really wants to meet Robin Hood. And to Clara, I say, girl, just go on Reddit and look at this GameStop shit that's happening. I mean, honestly, it's a fix. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So, Jamie, give me your impressions on this one.
I remembered this one as being like sort of a little romp, mostly inconsequential. You may or may not be surprised to know that Mark Gatiss wrote this one, and so I would ask what you think.
I actually really liked this episode. It's like super goofy, but it doesn't feel like it's not trying to be. The thing about the show is that it's always really goofy, but it sometimes pretends that it's not, and that's when it really fails for me. Like, we're all here for you being goofy. Let's not try to pretend you're something that you're not. We're all here for the goofiness. Let's just lean into it, and that's fine. And I feel like this episode was really doing what this show is best at, which is just trying to enjoy itself and do something silly. And the fucking, one of my favorite bits in this is the fact that the Doctor does not think that Robin Hood is really a person just because he's so perfect looking. Perfect teeth, perfect eyes. You couldn't be, like... Well, if we're going with that metric, sir, Clara's definitely a robot, first of all. But I really enjoy the fact that it gets acknowledged how incredibly pretty Robin is, because he really is. When he first shows up and I realized that he was supposed to be Robin Hood, I was like, this dude? And it's really... It shouldn't be like so sort of surprising, because... he is often portrayed as this, like, rakish, roguish sort of, you know? But I always think of, when I imagine Robin Hood, I never really picture, like, a full-grown, brawny dude. I always picture, like, I picture, like, the Crows from the Grisha series. Like, a bunch of 16 and 17-year-olds, you know? Who are just, like, kind of... They're just a couple of steps above being, like, street urchins. Like, they've got the know-how to have gotten past that point. Even though he's nobility and yada, yada, yada. So...
I always picture the Disney Robin Hood.
I have not seen that.
What was your childhood that you didn't see Robin Hood?
It's a lot of reading and watching The Little Mermaid repeatedly until my mother literally pretended to lose the VHS because she was so sick of me watching it over and over.
I just think it's not a mistake that the cartoon Robin Hood is a fox. I think it was intentional. He's a very handsome cartoon. It feels weird to say out loud, guys, but it was one of my first crushes when I was a kid.
I mean, that's cited by a lot of people who are attracted to men as their first crush. Yep.
Candace and I have definitely bonded over our crush on the cartoon Robin Hood. So that is what I think of. And then I'll like randomly, if I'm thinking about Robin Hood, I'll think of that Prince of Thieves movie, but mostly because of Christian Slater.
Christian Slater's in Prince of Thieves?
He plays Will Scarlet.
My God in heaven. How do I not? That's the one with Kevin Costner, right?
Yes. Yes. And Alan Rickman.
And he is the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes.
God. All right. I got to watch that too.
It's not good,
but
it's really good.
If it's got Kevin Costner in it, I can pretty much guarantee that it's garbage. No offense, Kevin Costner, but like all of the offense, really. Honestly, you have bad judgment, sir.
It's entertaining for sure.
Who plays Maid Marian in that?
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
What? Who is that?
I think it's the only thing I've ever seen her in. Don't ask me why that name is there for the answering, though, but it was right there. I just knew.
All right, I'm looking her up.
Dark curly hair.
Oh, this broad.
Yeah.
What have I seen? She was definitely in something else because I recognize her. She's got a little bit of that Bernadette Peters vibe, like a drop, because of the shape of her face and the big curly hair.
I can see that.
But yeah, she looks super familiar. I'm going to have to look through her shit and see where... Kevin Costner, Robin Hood, The Perfect Storm, Limbo, The Abyss. She was in The Punisher. That's what I know her from. The TV series.
Ooh, who did she play in The Punisher?
Marion James. I love that she played Maid Marian, and then she played a character named Marion James. Does that feel like a nod? I feel like that's on purpose. Oh, and she was in Grimm. She plays his mom. That's right. That's the other thing.
I only watched a few episodes of Grimm.
Grimm is one of those shows that really could have been great if they had decided to do something a little different, but they wanted to play it pretty safe, and it just never took off because of that. I remember when it came out, too, how heavy they went with, like, merchandising it and everything out of the gate, because they really wanted it to become this, like, sensation. And there's always something kind of embarrassing about that. You know? When something that's sort of new decides that they're going to come out with, like, this elaborate sort of handbook for the universe right away. It feels like you're really putting the cart before the horse, guys. I don't even know what your universe is about yet because their season's not over. What are you doing? And they even came out with, like, books, like, you know, novels, which I reviewed 2 of them for Project Fandom when they were coming out because I was a big fan of the show. But one of them was garbage and the other one was actually pretty good. But they were, you know, the kind of thing that, like, somebody ghostwrites the plot and then it's a different person each time doing the actual novel, and one person was bad at it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, Grimm, watch it if you feel like it. So, all right, this episode also, you know, again, look, I'm sorry, guys, that I spend so much time every episode just talking about how beautiful Clara is. I can't help it. When she walks out with that fucking red gown on, my jaw almost hit the floor. How in the hell does she look that great in that dress? And then she goes to the, like, you know, Victorian era, and she's just killing that dress too. It's not fair. It's not right. I don't appreciate it. I am doing the thing where I have to bring a woman down in order to feel better about myself. And I know that's a problem, and I'm going to refrain from actually trying to do that. But it's my instinct sometimes because I'm just like, oh, God, I wouldn't look good in that dress. It's just the fucking hair. I know it's a wig, you know. Nevertheless, the whole look, it's just so good. When he just kind of, like, goes slack-jawed and says, like, my word when she comes out, I'm like, yeah, that's the correct response.
Yeah.
So,
I do have, I mean, this is minor, but I have a question about how obviously there's a closet of costumes. We know this, but the hair. Mm-hmm. Are there wigs?
I think there have to be because this has come up before. I don't remember if it was with her or if it was with Amy, but somebody suddenly had bangs that they didn't have before. It might have, was it Rose? I don't remember, but yeah, somebody had bangs that had not previously been there. And I called it out at the time. And I think that there is an implication that either there's wigs or there's some sort of like hair altering machine that you can just stick your head in and be like, I need a bob for this outfit. I need long, lustrous locks for this outfit. I need bangs for this outfit. I need pin curls. We haven't seen a 20s one, have we? Have we gone into the 20s?
Well, yeah, with Donna and the Doctor when they were with Agatha Christie.
Right. But Donna was just dressed normally.
Yeah.
That was a real missed opportunity. They could have given her an awesome look. I'm just realizing Donna didn't dress up often, did she? She was pretty much always in her own clothes. I wonder if that was like a character choice or if that was like the show sort of being like, well, we're not going to do that with her because she's not an ornament.
She did dress up in that 1920s episode. She ends up in a little flapper dress.
Does she? Oh, I did not remember that. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so the Doctor asks her if there's any places she wants to go. She says, I don't want to tell you because you'll just, make fun of me and say he's not real, and that is precisely what happens. But she says that she really wants to meet Robin Hood. Now, Jamie, if you could meet, a fictional character, and granted, in this it's that he was a real person, but people don't believe he was real. But let's say that what happened here was that the Doctor was able to bring a fictional character to life for her. Who would you want to meet? Who would you be I want to go into this world and see what's going on with them and hang out with them?
I should have anticipated that you were going to ask this question and had an answer.
I don't blame you because he's a real person, so it doesn't feel like it's a relevant question when you know what you know by the end of it.
Well, on one hand, it's Captain America because it's Chris Evans.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I don't know because there's all kinds of people that I think it would be really neat to know this person.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a world I would want to live in? At one time, it would have been an easy answer of Harry Potter.
Mm.
Living in that universe would be great. But that's all tainted now. Mm-hmm. So I guess I could say Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, okay.
I think knowing Ahsoka Tano would be really awesome. I would love to become friends with her during the time of the Clone Wars so that I could also know Captain Rex and Anakin when he was awesome and hot Obi-Wan. Because that cartoon version of Obi-Wan Kenobi is smoking.
Okay. I have not seen him, but we're going to be starting that series pretty soon, so I will be.
Is it official?
Yes, we have. We've gotten a ton of feedback from people who are like, "Yeah, you might not like it, but I still want to hear what you think about it." So
because you and Rashawn were talking about it at the end of a Game of Thrones episode recently,
mm-hmm.
or Song of Ice and Fire episode. I saw you were doing the patrons, and there were still 18 minutes, and I was like, "What the hell?" And then you start talking about Clone Wars, and it was one of those times where I felt like I was that image where people are like me when I'm listening to podcasts, and it's them sitting in front of a poster of people laughing.
Yeah.
Where I also was like, no, you need to cover it though. And I almost texted you and be like, no, but you really need to cover the Clone Wars. I think it'll be interesting whether you like it or not. I love the Clone Wars, so I hope you guys like it, but I also would just like to know what you think of it.
Yeah, that seems to be pretty much where everybody's coming from. It's just, you may not love it, but the conversations will definitely be interesting. And
I also just kind of think you might end up loving it.
Maybe I will, but I can't trust your judgment, Jamie.
I guess that's true.
I can't, you are just so much more able to overlook things that I can't get past, that I can't use your metric because it's just so far off from my metric.
I'll tell you this. It grew on me.
Okay.
Because at first I was like, yeah, this is okay. And I kept watching because it was holding my interest enough. But it was a couple of seasons in before I was like, oh, now I can't stop watching. But it did take some time.
Somebody has also, and forgive me, whomever you are, I don't remember your name, but they are a patron, and they sent me an email with like a watch list recommendation because they, watching them in order is apparently not the thing to do.
Was it Rashawn? Because if so, that list came from me.
No, it was not. I have not gotten anything from Rashawn about it.
I did send her a watch list. Because I did start watching it.
I love that. It's a person whose name I can't remember who's a patron, and you're like, was it Rashawn? Jamie, do you think I would not know who it was if it was Rashawn?
I thought maybe you just forgot it was Rashawn. It's a mess that the number order of the episodes is not actually the story order of the episodes. I don't know why that happened. They aired them all out of order, kind of that thing that Fox did with Firefly that really fucked up Firefly, but worse, because sometimes it's an episode from season 3, an episode from season 2, an episode from season 1. It's all over the place. So when I first started watching it, I was like, I don't understand what the fuck is going on, which I think was part of the reason I was having a hard time getting into it, because I constantly felt lost. When I found out that there was a watch order and started watching it that way, it made a huge difference. And then my word of advice that came from a friend of mine is skip everything to do with Jar Jar and everything that are droid-centric episodes, because those are really aimed towards children.
I mean, we're not going to do that. I don't want to do, because this was suggested for Doctor Who as well, that, maybe we could do a watch list with just, better episodes and skip the... That's not what we do here. We don't skip shit, guys.
Well, I get that, but I didn't follow that advice. And afterwards, I was like, oh, yeah, he was right.
I mean, you can know that after, but that's the point, is that you went through it and now you know. And that's what the point of Unspoiled is watching somebody figure things out for themselves, Okay. So sure. It just doesn't, that's also, inevitably, if you try and do something like that, there are going to be people who are like, oh, but I mean, those are kind of important because, just do it all or don't do it. That's my motto with this is, obviously when I say do it all, I mean, do all of them in order, not necessarily do it all, because we've considered quitting this show. So that's not what it sounds like. But yeah, I want to go into something, and that's part of I was thinking about the fact that I watched the Firefly episodes in the order that I think they were aired, but not in the order that they should have been viewed. Because that was how they were listed on Amazon or whatever it was I was using to stream it at the time. And part of me is I wish that I had known, or that somebody had warned me and I did it the correct way. And another part of me is maybe there is something to seeing it out of order and realizing what everybody else went through and, feeling that. But in this case, it just doesn't feel worth it. I will heed that advice, I think, and use the watch order. And once we start it, because we still have to finish Korra, there's one episode of Korra left. But once we start it, I'll post what the watch list is going to be and pin it in a couple places so that people who are trying to follow along will know what's next.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited that you guys are going to cover it. It's really worth it once you hit a certain point of the storytelling. I truly think that Owen's going to enjoy it a lot. And
in that conversation on Song of Ice and Fire, it was just really interesting to hear about the purity of Rashawn's response to the Mandalorian finale because of the fact that she didn't have the baggage that I had going into it.
Yes.
So it was just, it's not, I freely admit that some of my response to things is not purely based on the quality of the work. It's based on my interpretation of what's happening on screen in response to people online and their bigotry and whatever.
And in that respect, and then we don't have to stick with this because we're completely off topic, but I didn't personally feel like what happened in that finale was a response to the shithead fans. Mm-hmm. I thought it actually made sense because of the time that the story takes place in.
Yeah, it just, it makes sense in that respect, but I feel like that was just convenient and that was still definitely what they were doing. But
Maybe, maybe not. I didn't take it that way, and I'm someone who's pretty annoyed with anything to do with that character. And I still was like, holy shit.
You didn't have the same response to Last Jedi, though. Or not Last Jedi. You know, Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. No, I didn't. I
hated Rise of Skywalker so much that I still grow angry thinking about it in my bones. Like, it is such a fucking affront. And it's so shameful, and they should be so fucking embarrassed.
And I totally agree with you.
Oh, I'm so disgusted.
And I didn't like the movie. I just didn't hate it in my bones.
I hate it past my bones. It's in my midichlorians
But how you
now.
feel is how I felt about The Phantom Menace. And still feel about The Phantom Menace. I hate that movie so much I want to stab someone because of it. George Lucas is who I want to stab.
George Lucas, you a mess. What do you... Just leave us alone. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So back to this.
Who would you pick then?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably go and hang out with Lyndon and Yaren from the Cradle series because they seem really awesome. The Cradle series, everybody just read it for fuck's sake.
God, I guess. I do have 4 credits on Audible. Is it better to listen to it, or should I get the book?
I think the audiobooks are quite well done. There's some characters, especially in later books, like the 4 and onward, that are hilariously voiced. So I think that they are super worth it, and they are just... It was one of those things that Owen liked it initially, and he was like, okay, this is fun, I understand. And now he is at the last book, and he is fucking obsessed, and is just like, oh my God, when is the next one coming out? This is like, I am trying to draw it out because I don't want it to be over yet, so I've hardly listened to it, even though I'm dying to find out what happens. And I'm like, yep.
How many books are there?
So far, I think there are 7, I think. But the 7th book is about twice the length of all the other books. It's they're all pretty quick reads, except for that one. That one's pretty long.
Okay.
So yeah,
They are just.
It's a fun characters. It's a fun universe, and because there's a lot of books and stuff that I've covered where there are characters that I like, but the place that they are is terrible. We don't want to go to Westeros and fucking chill in Westeros. It sounds like a fucking nightmare. Thank you very much. So, talking about the crows from the Grisha series. Ketterdam, I think I'll pass. Thanks, but no thanks.
it might be kind of fun if you got to be one of them. If I got to be Inej, that might be fun.
Yeah, but
that's not the question.
Yeah, no.
And really, it probably wouldn't be fun because that poor girl has been through shit.
Yeah, she's traumatized.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and if I'm talking about, larger properties that I have covered for the show, I mean, there's Dresden Files, but Harry really is the kind of person that I don't think I'd like in person. Mm-hmm. I enjoy him a lot as a character, and he's very effective, but I feel like being around him, I would just roll my eyes, every 5 seconds, just... He's one of those guys that talks about how I just want coffee-flavored coffee, none of this mocha frappa latte. And I'm just whatever, So, yeah.
My other answer is the Punisher so that I could be around Billy Russo even though he's an evil motherfucker because he's so hot. They're terrible answers. My real answer is Ahsoka.
I was going to say the Punisher... because I want to be around somebody who actually holds people accountable for their bullshit for a change, and it would be super cool to watch him go after dirty cops. I'm here for that.
Yeah, sure. And I don't actually want to know Billy Russo because he's a terrible, terrible person, but he's so hot. It's a problem.
Well, if we're going with hotness, then I want to hang out with Thor on Asgard.
Okay.
And pretty much just want to watch him fight. Just give me a giant tankard of beer, a horn of ale, and he can go and fight whoever.
You do like watching people punch.
Oh my God, I love men punching each other. It's the best. It's the best. It's such a shame that's not something that happens in person without it being incredibly problematic, unless it's regulated in, like, a ring. You know? Like, dudes who fight in person, it's never, like, for good reasons. It's not like there's nobility to it almost ever. It's usually, you bumped into me and I'm at the bar and I'm pissed, and I had a bad day at work. And I'm going to fight you, and it's going to be super embarrassing to watch because we're pretty much just going to cling to each other. And that's going to be what I pretend. Later on, I'm going to be like, yeah, I beat his ass. And that's not what happened, Jim.
Fights in real life tend to be like that fight at the party in Dazed and Confused.
I don't think I've seen that, no.
It's like the last day of school, so it's a bunch of teenagers having a party out in, like, it's called the Moon Tower. It's just, like, kind of in a park, essentially. And one dude's drunk. The other dude, like, pisses him off. He's, like, the drunk guy is, like, that guy from high school that's like, "What you say, motherfucker?" And the other one's, like, a nerdy guy. Mm-hmm. And it's just an ass kicking. Ugh. Like, there's one punch and nerdy guy goes down and then, like, tries to fight back and is pulled away by some of his friends and is, like, weeping. And that's usually what fights in real life are like.
Yeah, I want to see some Viking shit, man. I want to see some, like, you know, I want to see a guy who can take a punch and then deliver a punch back, and neither of them just passes out. Because
I just don't think that really happens.
I agree. Unless they're boxers, which is the problem. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
I want cinematic fights. And that's just not what happens. That's not real. It's such a shame.
And it's usually really sloppy.
Oh, completely. And I mean, like, you know, there's always this fantasy in my version of it that these guys get in a fight, and then whichever one that wins tosses me over his shoulder and throws me into his bed. But I don't want to fucking make out with the guy with the big bloody nose and the missing teeth. Like, that's not hot. So then I have to sort of edit that part, too. Just, everything is very messy.
Such a specific fantasy.
Yeah, you know, it's like the whole, what's it called? I can't remember, because there's like an archetype that this is, but it's, you know, basically the beast kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always, like, because it's the sort of thing that I have this very distinctive sort of, like, fantasy idea, but I've never done, like, a role play of it, because have you ever done, well, I guess you don't have to answer this, because for many people this would be considered a personal question. I don't see it that way, but role playing in sex, I have never done it.
I haven't either. It feels weird to me. I get why people do it, and more power to them. I wish that I could just let go and have fun with that. But I'm more like Ross on that episode of Friends where he's trying to talk dirty to that woman and he ends up going, vulva.
I do not remember that. Oh my God. I can't remember what show it was where the guy said something. He was trying to talk dirty. The girl freaks out, and they ask him what he said, and she said something about her panties, and he said, "The panties that your mom put out for you this morning." It's like, I can't remember what show it was. And everybody, when he, like, says that's what he said, stares at him, because there's no response to that. Like, what the fuck does that mean? And I wish I could remember what show it is.
I wish I knew.
But yeah, I just find it so awkward and strange, and I have sort of like half-heartedly tried, and you really can't half-heartedly role play. It's either you're doing it or you're being embarrassing. It's like sex itself. You know, you either like go for it and you try and be as unself-conscious and committed as possible, or it's just uncomfortable for everybody, you know?
Yep.
So, anyway.
Back to this rated G show that we're covering.
What is the show again that we're covering? I don't remember it. Sorry, I have
something about a doctor.
Thor open in the other window here. I'm watching it. I'm just kidding. Not really doing that.
Have you ever read Robin Hood?
I have not. No. Have you?
I haven't either. No. I'm wondering if I should, though.
I mean, we've talked a lot about various versions of it. I would watch it before I would read it. I'll say that much. But I just...
Well, it's kind of like I had seen several different versions of The Three Musketeers. But then I read the book, and the book is amazing.
Okay.
So I wonder if if Robin Hood is also a great book. I don't know. I kind of forgot it was a book.
Is it just a book? It's not like a series of books? For some reason, I always think of it as like a group of stories, but I'm realizing that's based on nothing. Just the fact that there's so many versions of it out there, I guess. Right.
Robin Hood book.
So, okay. She... What is it that she says? Because the doctor said something about this girl that can hold their drink. Robin Hood, the heroic outlaw, who robs from the rich and gives to the poor. He's made up. There's no such thing. Old-fashioned heroes only exist in old-fashioned storybooks. And then she says, what about you? And he gets a little bit cagey for a second. And I thought that what she was saying was, what about you? What fictional character have you always wanted to meet? And so he was being weird about it because it was going to turn out to be something like, I don't know, like Matilda, like a children's book character. And instead she's like, well, you're pretty heroic. And I was like, boo. I thought we were going to get a funny thing about the doctor being embarrassed. And instead it's just another, you're a hero. Womp, womp. And this is when he suggests Mars and the Ice Warrior hives. No?
Yeah, no. That's a no. Thanks. We've already dealt with those guys, and they suck.
Why would you even suggest that, dude? What are you talking about? What? How? What? It's not even just something that, we have seen and we know how terrible they are, but it was Clara who was involved the last time.
Yeah.
She personally has seen how, terrifying they are. Oh my God, what a bad idea. Sir, get yourself together. I couldn't believe what I was reading.
He says the tumescent arrows of the half-light. He notes that those girls can hold their drink and fracture 15 different levels of reality at the same time.
I think I've got a Polaroid somewhere.
Yeah.
Which I am dying to know. Is that sexy? It sounds like he's talking about Girls Gone Wild here. And he's got a Polaroid somewhere because he kept that shit. It's all fucking folded up and ratty. So yeah, she says, no, I want mine. Show me Robin Hood. And he says fine, even though, having said that he wasn't real, one would think that wouldn't be something that he could even really request. But what he requests is Sherwood Forest, really.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just bringing her to the time and place where these stories take place, and then is like, see? Told you.
Right.
No Robin Hood.
But Robin Hood's literally right there.
Yep.
He's just waiting for him. And it's a pretty good bit, because the Doctor is just, first of all, very salty about the fact that Robin Hood exists at all. It's like he takes it personally, somehow. What do you think that's about?
He doesn't like to be wrong.
Do you think that's it? That it's just he doesn't like being wrong? Okay. Because I was kind of like, why are you so, mad about this, dude?
And he insists that this guy is fake.
Yeah.
That he doesn't immediately go to robot, but he's, trying to figure out, what are you? Because there's no such thing as Robin Hood. That's a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm. I think he doesn't want to think that there are heroes, because that makes it easier for him to be like, yeah, I can be shitty sometimes, but I'm still not terrible. And then he, meets somebody who seems to be, genuinely a hero. And he's like, oh, wait, I thought that was just a story, but this person is real, and they do seem, as genuine and as committed as they were in their stories. And that's, kind of uncomfortable for me, because I like to tell myself that's not reality or possible, I don't know, because there just seems to be like a preoccupation for him with who he is in a way that we haven't seen from previous doctors.
Yeah, he's very... The bickering between the two of them, I've never seen the Doctor be this way with anyone.
Yeah, it just feels like he takes this whole dude's existence personally.
Yeah. He's mad at the fact that Robin laughs at everything.
Yep. That honestly was really amazing too. The like whole intro with him and the big wink, and then he like literally is like, "I laugh in the face of all." Ha ha ha. I was like, "What? Really? Okay." Such an unnatural laugh. And that is, like, it turns out to be part of the issue later. You know, Clara's like, "Okay, you're clearly very sad, man, because you're laughing all the time. What is going on with you?"
On the, I always want to call them screen caps, and they're not. The
annotations? The
closed captioning.
Oh.
When he was laughing, it actually spelled out, ha, ha, ha.
Nice. Yes. I mean, I figure that's how it's written in the script, and he was like, "I'm going to actually do that. I hope you guys are ready for that." So he calls the Doctor a bony rascal, first of all, which I really enjoyed a great deal. There's something that hits me about that, and I feel like that's just going to be part of my thing from now on. So I hope you guys are all ready for me to call him a bony rascal.
This dude who plays Robin when he's not in his Robin Hood. Oh my god, he's so much hotter.
I'm telling
you, shit.
This is what I kept doing in this episode. What are you looking at? Send me the link, because I kept seeing him, and this getup, the wig especially, is so bad that it fucked up a lot for me. But I could see that he had an amazing face. It's just all of the extra bits. I'm like, this does not work well at all. So, I want to see what he looks like. What else has he been in? What's going on? Show me. Tell me.
It's on IMDb, so I don't think there's any spoilers if you just look up his name.
I don't know what his name is.
Tom Riley.
Tom Riley. All right, guys. Everybody's like, you guys have literally not talked about this episode at all. I'm so sorry. Tom Riley, actor, Da Vinci's Demons?
Yeah.
What?
He's dark-haired, first of all.
Yeah. Damn. Oh my god.
Yeah, way hotter as anything other than Robin Hood.
Christ. He's got almost an Ian Somerhalder thing going on, like a drop. It's like that and like a bit of Rob Lowe and a bit of somebody who's like got more of a baby face. Damn. All right.
In one of these pictures, he reminded me of the guy who played the bad guy in Ultron. Daniel Bruhl. He had a little bit of him. Oh, and a little bit of the guy who played Ichabod Crane on Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, that dude, yeah.
There's a little bit of him, too. That guy's really hot, too.
It's funny, though. I Googled his name and the word actor, since he has such a common name. And depending on the photo, he's way less hot.
Yeah,
he's
it
got
also
one of
depends
those
on
faces.
the hair.
It's like very back and forth. And it depends on the facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he kind of goes, he's occasionally like incredibly hot. And then here and there, I'm like, average, whatever. But I think that Da Vinci's Demons with the longer hair and the beard, and he is jacked as hell also. God damn. But anyway, yeah, so this dude is like, I feel like he does well at being a charming rapscallion without getting annoying. Obviously, the Doctor finds him annoying, so I'm speaking for myself here. But this kind of personality can easily be overdone to the point where it's like, okay, I know I'm supposed to think that this is cute, but I actually hate him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which can be the doctor, actually.
I never disliked him. I found him charming throughout. Mm-hmm. Even when he was bickering with the doctor.
So yeah, he just decides that he's going to take the TARDIS, and the doctor's like, well, no, you're not. This is mine. And they're in the middle of arguing about this when Clara comes traipsing out in her fucking gown and just makes him, like, nearly faint, which, fair. And then they get in a sword spoon fight. Honestly, the doctor saying, I have my spoon, with a fucking dead-ass straight face, was fucking hilarious to me. I thought he was going to say, I have my spoon, and then it would be like, oh, wait, that's not what I wanted. And it would be a little bit of, like, a bit of business of him trying to find the thing that he was actually looking for. Right. And no, the spoon was what he wanted, and that's what he has, and this is all going according to plan, and it's baffling. But in the end, he does succeed in winning the fight in as much as he knocks Robin off of the log into the water. But Robin gets him back pretty quickly by sneaking up behind him and knocking him forward into the water. And I was absolutely 100% here for it. And I enjoy the fact that Clara laughs with Robin in like immediately establishing that she is Team Robin. Doc, sorry about that, but you're like, she's just not going to side with you on this shit.
Well, until later when she's annoyed with both of them and she's just Team Clara.
Both of you, shut up. So he takes them to meet his merry men, and she calls them that, and he's like, oh, word. That is awesome. Yes, we are. That's what we're going to say from now on, guys. What do you think? I always enjoy, like, I know it's such a cliche, but the bits where somebody, like, suggests something that already exists in their world because of time travel, and the other person's like, oh, that's actually perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And we get this Sheriff of Nottingham bit where he's going into this village and taking all of their gold and taking people prisoner because he needs them for labor. And the girl that she winds up being Marion. I don't know why. I had always thought Marion was a noblewoman.
I did too.
Like I said, I have not read the book, so what do I know? So it didn't even occur to me that's who this was. But she is the actress from Bridgerton who plays the eldest son's opera singer mistress.
What? Yeah. I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to, like, place her, and all of a sudden I remembered, and I was like, oh, that's it. Because she's, like, really pretty, but she has a very distinctive face. And it's just very expressive. So I just kept, like, some of the expressions she made, because in Bridgerton, spoilers, she looks distressed a fair amount of the time. So I was like, this sad expression really looks familiar on her. What do I know her from that she's sad all the time? So.
And also in that scene is Mace Tyrell.
Right. Because this is one of those character actors that I see in everything. But I had forgotten that he plays somebody specific because Mace is just such a nothing. I'm sorry, Mace, but, like, really, what are you doing?
Olenna would agree.
I can't wait to start getting to that section. Oh man, it's gonna be so fun. We just got to Arya fleeing when we were recording yesterday. And it's so hard to read because it's like she fucking knows what's happening, man. Like, she doesn't want to know, but she does. And then we're going to have to cover Sansa next week, who is just in such fucking denial for so long. Oh, Sansa.
I can't wait for the second book so that you guys are talking about Sansa once her eyes have been opened.
So, okay, this dude is like, his daughter gets gripped up. He spits in the sheriff's face. Sheriff BT Dubs is also kind of hot in his way. And
I don't think she's his daughter,
no?
by the way. I think Marion is hiding.
Oh, okay. Well, he spits in his face either way, and that earns him a sword to the gut. Mm-hmm. And it's always so amusing in this show, too, because, like, it's fine to kill somebody, but they don't want to show the blood.
Or the actual stabbing.
Right. So it just, like, all sort of happens bloodlessly off screen. Mm-hmm. And what we find out later, because somebody mentions how odd it is that despite seemingly going after riches, the sheriff is only interested in gold. And there's all kinds of, like, precious stones and things like that he leaves behind and doesn't seem at all interested in the towns that, or villages, I guess, that he sort of loots. And what we find out later is that he's using that gold to, like, make some sort of power matrix for a ship.
Yeah.
And so let's jump ahead to the, what do you call it? Archery contest, shall we?
Sure.
Okay, so this is honestly so funny to me. Basically, the doctor just can't handle not being the best at anything. He is standing around when they're getting introduced to the Merry Men, like taking samples of their hair, and they're like, one of them, he's like, this isn't a real sandal, and then he sniffs it and he's like, never mind. And he's, despite like all the evidence here pointing to the fact that this isn't real, or pointing to the fact that it is real, my bad, he keeps saying that it doesn't, it's clearly not. He just has to figure out the angle, you know, like what it is that they have done and who's behind it. And he's even going so far as to like suspect the weather and the
Well, he notices that the weather is unusually sunny and warm for the time of year it's supposed to be. And so that feeds into his, something is wrong here. You guys are not supposed to exist. What is this? And he says, like, a theme park from the future, a mini scope, which is apparently something from an old episode of Doctor Who, if anybody wants to explain to me later what a mini scope was.
It sounds like something we would have during, like, a colonoscopy or something. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't like it. So does the weather wind up being a thing?
Yes.
Okay. How did that work out?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember.
It's towards the end, once he figures out that the castle is not really a castle, there's radiation leaking, and that is causing this, like, climate anomaly.
Got it. Okay. Which, like, I mean, I don't know that would happen. You know, like, that's a weird
ship
thing.
From outer space.
Yeah, just, like, I can understand it if it was just warmer. But the fact that the sun is shining, and there's, like, you know, there are no clouds in the sky, thousands of feet in the air, I don't feel like that's... But maybe I'm wrong. What do I know about fucking radiation? Nothing, that's what. So we go to the archery contest, and the doctor, like... First, Robin wins, of course, by splitting the arrow. And then the doctor shows up, and he splits the arrow. And then Robin is like, fuck you, it's mine. And he splits the arrow back again. And they just go back and forth over and over, whipping their dicks out and shoving them in each other's faces.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a dick measuring contest here between these three.
God. Get over yourselves. Honestly, nobody cares.
And then the doctor's like, fuck this, and blows the whole thing up. Like, come on, man.
To which the sheriff says, fascinating, sees him. And I will say, I thought that the doctor was going to get arrested for witchcraft. But instead, he kind of like weirdly gets lucky because the sheriff's already got experience with like space shit. So instead of being afraid of him, he's just like, oh, maybe you know something that I can use. Which is kind of lucky, because otherwise I feel like the doctor would have been drawn and quartered. This would not have gone well for him. And eventually there's like a full out brawl and all three of them get arrested.
Well, and I think Robin cuts off the arm of one of these knights, and that's when they realize they're robots.
Right. They have this, like, cross. It's, like the Crusader cross in the front of their helmets that shoots this, like, purple beam. What a weird choice.
Well, I think because whatever these creatures are, whatever they actually are, when they decided to try to assimilate into this time, they probably saw a lot of those images around.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just such for the show, it's an odd choice, to highlight that quite so heavily. You know what I mean? Usually I feel like they try and stay pretty agnostic unless it actually absolutely has to be brought up for whatever reason. And
like when the Doctor met Satan.
Wait, what? When does the Doctor meet Satan?
They were the Satan pit.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Oh my god, I forgot about that. How did I forget about that? The Satan pit. There's got to be an album out there named that, right?
Or probably some heavy metal band.
So these guys can use these cross beams. That's not really what I want.
Cross beams!
I'm sorry. It's just what happened when I said it. It's just the things. And I really enjoy when they are arrested that there's like a cross that's got light shining through it, like a window slit, to sort of keep up with that motif,
Yeah.
But yeah, these...
I do have to say, these kinds of castles that are like river run, like part of the water, in a way, they're my favorite kind of castles.
Like in terms of just aesthetically?
Okay. Yeah. Where they're like surrounded by water like that. I don't know. I love that type of, let's build one here, right in the middle of this lake.
All I can think is you would never be dry again. My hair in an environment like that, oh my god, what a nightmare. You'd be like, I mean, you could do it when you're younger, but I feel like when you get older, your bones just don't want to fucking cope with that damp all the time. Too much. It would be very good for food storage, though.
I never really thought about any of that aspect, or those aspects. I mostly was just like, I love how it looks, where it's like this castle just came up out of the water. And you don't need a moat or anything, you just have this surrounded on three sides by water. Yeah,
I think that humidity is just kind of like a thing for me, where I just personally hate it so much that's immediately what I see. It's just like, oh god, your clothes would rot, your hair would frizz, your books would all begin to like cake together. Have you read Poisonwood Bible?
No.
It's so good. It takes place in Africa, it's just this incredibly humid environment, and all of this stuff that they brought with them to make living there a little bit more comfortable, it's ruined by how incredibly humid the air is, and they're just trying to like turn this place into as close to where they are from as possible, and it's just not, you can't just bring your stuff. Even one of the boxes of cake mix that the mom bought to try and make a cake for somebody's birthday, the cake mix is just like a complete solid block that's like unusable. Yeah, so that's why I think of with stuff like this now, is Poisonwood Bible and how depressing that was. So yeah, okay, so they all get arrested and they're sitting together. We have the like fucking back and forth with these two. Oh my god, and fucking Clara yells at the two of them to shut up. And they're debating who the sheriff will get the least information out of if they get interrogated. And eventually she just like decides that it's going to be her. She's going to be the one that gets questioned. I really love how they keep arguing, but neither of them actually has a plan. They just keep insisting that when they have a plan, it will definitely be better than the other guy's plan will be. They don't have it yet, but like once they do.
Well, I don't think she did this on purpose. There was that guard waiting outside, or not really a guard, who was listening to them argue and determined that she was the ringleader because she got them to shut up.
Oh, right.
And that's why he takes her, because when he's leading her away, she looks at them and says, seriously?
She had to be the mom.
Well, they were acting really like children. Like, if they weren't chained up, one of them would have been grabbing the other one's hand and being like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
There's just an episode of Cheers where Sam and Diane are, like, arguing with each other. And at first it's, like, an adult argument about their relationship and how neither of them can commit completely. And it devolves until eventually they each have a hold of one another's nose. And neither of them will let go of the other's nose until the other one lets go first. And neither of them wants to be the one to let go first. And they just keep squeezing. And they're like doubled over, screaming in pain. But both of them won't let go. And it's such a perfect metaphor for their relationship. And it's one of the funny... That show holds up so well. There's certainly hugely problematic sections of it. But overall, it is some absolutely perfectly written comedy, and that scene in particular is one that I think of all the time and will still belly laugh over it because Jesus Christ, two grown adults who are clearly in love with each other, grabbing each other by the nose and twisting. What are you doing, guys? So Clara is having dinner with the Sheriff of Nottingham, and he is looking at the doctor's screwdriver and basically is trying to get her to tell him who she is, who the doctor is, how they have the access to technology that they do, because he's trying to get this ship going. And eventually she sort of gets that out of him. He's trying to figure out how to do it, and he needs people who have access to that sort of knowledge. And she pretends to have experienced something that, like, she's, basically making a wild guess, but it's an educated guess about what happened to him, likely, to get him to think that he's only sharing his side of things with somebody who's also experienced this already, so it's not going to be information she doesn't already have. I love when she's like, you have to tell your story first, and he says, why? And she says, because men of greatness must proceed. And he's just like, that doesn't make sense. So she does this thing, though, that I always find puzzling, which is when it's time for her to tell her side of the story, she's just like straight up says, oh, there is no story. I just lied to you so that you would tell me stuff. She's very much like at his disposal right now. In a room with no other person to protect her. He could do whatever. And she's just acting like she's already out the door and in her car driving away saying this to him. Why are you telling him now when you're still right there?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I didn't understand this at all. Keep playing along. What does that cost you? Like, I feel like that just keeps you in a really good position to do something eventually, you know?
Yeah, but instead she's like, no thanks. And then he tries to kiss her, and she's like, if you do that again, you'll regret it.
And then we just cut.
It's like,
instead of seeing him ask, what would I regret? You can't fight me off. Are you serious? Which is what would actually happen. Which, I guess that's why we cut away. Because it's like, well, we all know that really wouldn't stop him. So we're just going to not deal with that part. It's just, this scene doesn't work super well. It's fine.
I liked her part of it where she, like, did that whole, like, let the villain monologue thing. But yeah, after that, like once, because that was really clever.
I mean, it is, but it's also like the playbook. It's incredibly predictable. Like, that's what you do, is you let the villain like share their dastardly plan. So I don't even want to call it clever. It seems really obvious. So the fact that she then just is like, oh yeah, I was lying. I didn't. That completely countermands the cleverness completely to me. It's just like, well, don't you can't do anything with that information until you're out of here. So why would you make it so that he doesn't want to let you leave because now you know what he's actually about to do? Like, this is the point, is to get this so that you can bring this information back to the doctor, who can hopefully like do something. But okay, sure. And yeah, the point is that he wants this ship because he wants to take over all of England, because he feels unappreciated by his boss, is what it comes down to. And he's like, just decided, well, you know what? I think I'm going to kill that boss, and I'm going to be the boss, and that's how we're going to do this. And, I mean, which one of us hasn't been there, to be honest, you know?
I hope not my employees.
So eventually the doctor and Robin break out because they like pretend to the dude who's like the jailer that there's a bounty for Robin, and the doctor does this whole thing about how Robin is so cowardly that he'll make himself sick, and he probably soiled himself. It's honestly actually pretty funny.
But then they knock the guy out and are fighting over who is going to get the keys with their feet, and end up knocking the keys into a little grate on the floor.
There's one silver lining. Clara wasn't here to see that. That's a pretty good line.
It is a good line.
And they wind up leaving, and they carry the like weight that they're chained to with them, which is so funny to me. And throughout all of this, the doctor still is convinced that Robin is not real. So he winds up going onto this ship, and he like finds information about Robin Hood to show him that in his mind proves the fact that he's not real. Like, see all of these stories, like, and he thinks that like by revealing this to Robin, it will prove I know without a shadow of a doubt, so you can like give up the charade. And it was such an odd thing, because to me, at this point, I'm watching it, I'm not even certain that Robin is real. But if he's not, I don't think he's aware of it. So I felt like the doctor was being a little bit cruel here. In case this guy doesn't know that he's not real, you're really just shattering his world with no consideration for what that is. Like, yeah, that's a pretty harsh thing to do, my man, just because you feel like being right. But okay, sure. Just.
And also, like, how does this prove that he's not
real?
Exactly. That these aren't, that this story, The Adventures of Robin Hood, aren't based on a real guy. It's, just because it's a fable doesn't mean it's not based on something real. And what you're showing him are artist renditions and actors who played that character in a movie.
And understandably, because all of this, the fact that like the ship that they're in, the way that these images are being displayed is like alien to Robin. There is a moment where you can see him being like, am I real? Like, I really felt for him a little bit. It's just having this existential crisis, you know? Westworld up in here. So yeah, it was an odd thing that the doctor didn't even seem to consider. Maybe he's not real and also unaware of the fact. He seems to just be going off of this theory that he's not real and it's all a conspiracy. You know? And I was like, why is that what you think is true? You wouldn't want, if you were going to set up something, the ideal is for the beings to really wholly believe their character, not for them to be like pretending and aware of the joke or the deceit, you know?
And then his whole idea that Okay, so this is a ship from the 29th century. It disguises itself to look like a 12th century castle so that it can blend in. And all of the little robots now are dressed like knights. But it also created Robin Hood and his merry men based on just scanning the, history of Earth and found this, here's this legend. So that there can be opposition to sell their position better. And later on, when it's discussed with the sheriff, he's like, why would I do that? Why would I want to have somebody upsetting my plans constantly? That's stupid.
And the doctor just says, yeah, that's a bad plan. Yeah, dude, it is. What are you talking? Because he's like, oh, you need to give workers hope, the opiate of the masses, a story that they can believe in to get them to keep working. And I'm like, this is.
But that isn't what they're doing.
Flat for me,
they're
son.
working them. They're working them literally until they die, or until they can't get up off the floor again, and then they're like vaporizing them.
Yeah, I mean. That vaporizing scene was so funny, too, by the way. I mean, it's no fault of the actress, because she's really doing the best she can. But she has to stand there with this guy who gets... It's one of those things that happens in a lot of shows where the means of execution takes a different amount of time, depending on who's in the scene and how dramatic we want it to be. So, like, these beams, it takes a minute for this guy to be reduced to a pile of ash. It's a lot longer than I thought it would be. I expected it to be sort of an instantaneous thing. But
like when the Daleks
yeah. But instead it's more of a boop, there he goes, there's Ash. And then it just like turns away. And she just yells after it, damn you, and that evil sheriff. And I was like, really? Come on. I felt so bad for her. That's not a good line. It's not even like the evil sheriff. Maybe it's just you and that sheriff. But it feels like a line from that Insecure show. You know, the one that they have going on in the background where there's the... black man just yelling, no. I hate slavery.
I haven't watched Insecure.
So fucking good. Yeah, it's a sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a spoof historical drama show that everybody watches in that universe. And it's really like ham-fisted and over the top. And at one point, there's like a young boy is murdered, a young black boy, and his father is just like shaking his fist at the ceiling going, I hate slavery. And it's just the most ridiculous. So that was what this felt like to me. Damn you, and that sheriff. Okay. So the doctor has this whole, smug monologue that turns out to be totally wrong. And as he's like doing this bit with Robin, the sheriff comes in and he's got Clara. And as the doctor is distracting him, not intentionally exactly, but nevertheless, with the whole like, I know that he's not real, Clara and Robin escape out a window, basically? Does it just explode the whole back area because of the zappy?
They just jump out the window. He takes her, knowing that the sheriff's probably not going to shoot at her, sort of uses her as a shield in a way, and then drops into the water.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was an actual window or if one of those zaps like just burned a hole in the wall. But yeah, so they all sort of assume apparently that she's dead. I mean, the sheriff definitely does. Doctor, he seems agitated, but then he sees that Robin has carried her out. So yeah, there's the conversation there where he realizes his mistake.
Oh, you know what? These notes do say that it was he jumped through a hole blasted by the knife.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's why I was like... It was hard to tell the way it was cut if that was there
Yeah,
first.
I thought it was a window, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
So the doctor gets chained up again. He's with Marion this time. And when Clara wakes up, she wakes up to a much less merry Robin. He's basically like, what the fuck are you doing here? What is this? Who's that guy? What's going on? You can see that he's feeling away, which you would if somebody's out here trying to tell you that they know about your existence and that, like, they have read books written about your whole life. Yeah, I don't blame him. He'll tell me exactly who this doctor is and what are his plans. And then we go back to the doctor, who has this moment of being assessed. You are fit for labor. Stand aside until this peasant is freed. And he says, I'm afraid you're a little late. I'm already free! And then he uses this, like, metal tray to reflect
like
the beam back at the dude. And it breaks him. And when we look around, everybody is armed.
He does say something to Marianne a little bit earlier about a revolt or something.
Okay.
How they passed that on to all the other people that were working, I don't know.
How did he know that this reflected, that it wouldn't just go... I mean, they burned through the wall of the ship, but it just bounces off a tray?
Sure.
Okay.
It's really good silver.
I thought it was gold. I thought this was all supposed to be gold.
Well, they're probably sifting through all of the stuff they've taken.
Is that the labor
Toss
that they're
these
doing?
plates aside. I don't know.
What labor are they performing?
I don't know. Something where it's hot and they're all sweaty. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. Obviously not entirely relevant to the episode, but I assumed that they were going through everything that the sheriff was taking from people and then having to melt down this gold.
Okay. Well, yeah, so that is how they get out of there. And the sheriff is over here, like, seeing how functional the ship is when he gets, like, sort of a notification on his what is that ring, that there is a revolt happening. You know, hello. I'm trying to remember, because I know he like moves something aside and he's got this like screen. He doesn't even move anything aside. It's like he just waves his hand and the screen appears.
Oh.
But it just made me think of that app, the Ring app, where you like put a little camera outside your door and then you get a notification that somebody's delivering a package and you just like can see them.
Okay.
So he gets distracted because this is going on and he has to take care of this. And it's kind of funny because of the whole, why would I want somebody around who's going to disrupt my plans all the time? That's a bad idea. And then immediately is presented with an example of, yeah, see, this is what I mean. I don't like this. This is bad for me. I really love the one dude firing a laser beam and it bounces between everybody's plates for like a full minute before they finally zap him with it. How? It's like a game of zip zap zop, but for like way higher stakes. So, okay, you are indeed an ingenious fellow, but do you really think your peasants' revolt can stop me? I rather think you're the revolting one around here. I'm bantering. Listen to me. I liked that.
I forgot to mention when the doctor was telling Robin to like moan, and he's like, "Well, no, you should. Look at you. You're pale as milk. The Scottish, they just don't understand having to eat vegetables.
It's something about how, like, your the decrepitness of age or something as well. He keeps bringing up how old he is. It's like, This show really does not shy away from really going for it whenever they make fun of whoever's playing the Doctor. They're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to like pick a thing that's genuinely a thing. And we're going to hone in on that until you will never fail to remember how the entire world knows that this is something that maybe you're a little bit sensitive about.
And poor Peter Capaldi gets eyebrows and, dude, you're so
old all the time. Stop it.
Someone posted in the Whovian group that Peter Capaldi, when he was a youth, I think he was in his 20s, was in a punk band with Craig Ferguson.
Oh my God.
Which
is Craig
amazing.
Ferguson. I had such a fucking crush on him.
Same.
I had meant to mention this last episode, but I told you I was rewatching Poirot. Peter Capaldi is in one of those episodes as the sexy romantic artist that this woman is having an affair with.
Oh, yeah, really?
It's really funny. And he's not sexy, but he's got kind of that Mick Jagger sexiness where it's like you're so weird looking that there's something appealing about you, you know?
Sure. How long ago was that?
Oh, God. 90s,
like, is that
I feel like?
80s?
Yeah.
90s? Okay. So maybe 30 years ago?
Yeah,
sure.
Something like that. And it's funny, too, because, like, the woman's having an affair with him, but the guy she's married to looks so much like him that Owen thought they were the same actor and was like, why is this weird? Like, I was like, that's not the same guy, babe. She's fucking somebody else. And he's like, oh, I thought it was the same dude. So, yeah, she had a type, apparently, that woman. Weird-looking gangly dudes. So this is when he's trying to tell him, you don't have enough gold content. This shit's going to blow up. You're going to wipe out half of England. And he says, from my sky vessel, I shall rule omnipotent. And I'm like, what makes you think that? What about this gives him omnipotence?
Well, and also it is revealed when the Doctor first finds that, like, center of the ship, basically the, like, power source or the captain's chamber or whatever it is, that the ship was trying to find the Promised Land, and he's like, the Promised Land again. That's what that half-faced man said. So, if we're going to extrapolate, these creatures are trying to get to somewhere. The sheriff has decided his own plan using them, and he was never going to get what he wanted because had they succeeded, they were going to go where they needed to go and probably just throw him off the ship.
That's interesting. And then he would have wound up with Missy, maybe, probably.
Well, would he or would they?
Well, they'd throw him off the ship, so he'd die. And then he would wind up there, because that's what happens when you die, evidently. You go to Missy's heaven. It's the name of a coffee shop downtown.
Everyone has to wear that coat and carry an umbrella.
So, okay, I'm trying to see what... Ha! 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 Sorry, that's the captions here because they're sword fighting now. And it's just a lot of ha's and then gruntings. I shall avenge every slight out-halla! Okay. You have long been a thorn in my side. Everyone should have a hobby. Mine's annoying you. I'll have you boiled in oil in the castle by sunset. Can we make it a little earlier? Because that's a little past my bedtime. Oh, you, they're bantering.
That line, I was like, sunset is very pretty.
So, long story short, they get off of this ship, but they have to blow it up while it's in the air, or else it's going to do some damage. And not even blow it up. They have to hit, like, the power thing, right?
Well, it doesn't have, it's like almost at capacity, but it doesn't have enough power to get out of the atmosphere so that it won't kill all of them. So the Doctor, I think, remembers about the gold arrow.
Right.
And figures if we shoot this into the power source of the ship, it'll give it just enough power to get out of our orbit before it explodes.
So they get them out of there by, like, because Robin's arm is, like, hurt. So
Yeah, I think he got sliced.
Yeah. So they team up to shoot it.
Yes, because the Doctor also has to admit that he used arrows that had, like, homing devices on them.
He's a dirty, rotten cheater.
So he can't actually accurately shoot a bow and arrow.
Oh my god, I loved that so much. I love that. You fucking cheater. So
I actually appreciate it because it was one of those things where I was like, so the Doctor can perfectly shoot a bow and arrow too?
I mean, I definitely appreciate it. I'm always a fan of finding out that the Doctor is just, like, so full of pride that he faked a thing. He's not just, like, unnaturally good at everything. He's not only not good at everything, he's a little bit of a bitch about it. You know?
This is one of those things where, like, people probably didn't question in the moment, like, oh, well, sure, of course the Doctor's good at that too. Whereas if Clara suddenly had been, like, a perfect shot, people would be like, ugh! She's just such a Mary Sue, so good at everything. Mm-hmm. So I really like that the Doctor was like, yeah, I hate that.
So yeah, Clara and the Doctor hold the bow while he pulls back the string and sights. And they manage to hit their target, and they go out into orbit. Or not, they just, like, break out past the atmosphere. And then you hear, engines critical, engines critical, engines, and then it blows up, and everybody's on the ground cheering at the fact that this thing just blew up and all of these beings are dead. And I was like, yeah, I'm not mad at you. They were just terrorizing you. It's fine.
But also, like, how do you explain what just happened to these 12th century people?
They're willing to just be like, witches, and then move on with their lives. And then, in the end, she leaves, and there's, like, I kind of enjoy the fact that he's already established as being in love with Marion, so that even though there's definitely chemistry between them, and even though she's like, you fine, and he's like, yeah, you fine, there's no, like, further exploration of that, you know?
Yeah.
And, she winds up getting on the TARDIS, and the Doctor comes on, and she's sort of, like, just sort of poking him about what a cranky bastard he is, and just admit that you like the guy. And he says, yeah, I did leave him a present. And then Marion comes over the hill, and you realize, like, that's who she was this whole time. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's very delighted to see her, and it's very cute.
That actress also was... Remember in Game of Thrones when Arya was acting as a serving woman when she kills all the Freys?
Yes.
That's her.
That's the woman who was the serving woman? Oh, wow. I pictured her... I thought that it was, like, almost a child that Arya's took her body. Okay. I did not remember that. That's neat. I would love to be the one who got to, like, you know, play that role for a second. That's an iconic moment, you know, even though Arya returns to her own face right before she actually does it, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't she?
Well, that girl, she's like, when he's like, where are my sons? And she's like, talking about the pie.
Right.
Oh, no, she says, they're here, sir. And he's like, where? And she's like, here. And, like, points out the pie, and that's when he sees, like, a finger in his pie. And then she removes her face, and Arya slits his throat.
So good.
Says the North remembers.
So good.
So good.
I'm not, like, that's one of those things that if that does happen in the book, I'm never going to be like, God, I'm so mad the TV show ruined that for me, because they did not ruin that for me, because it's still great.
I still think it's going to be Lady Stoneheart that does it in the book, but...
I don't feel like Lady Stoneheart has the capacity to make a pie. Just saying.
She's got a lot of people following her around doing stuff for her.
Yeah, true. So you figure she'll just take credit for somebody else's pie.
I don't think Arya made that
like
pie. I think she might have sliced the people up. She probably just brought hot pie over for a day and was like, I just need you to bake this pie. I'm going to give you what to put in it.
Maybe there's a pie that's already made and she just stuck a finger in it to make a point. Their bodies are somewhere else, but one of them's missing a finger and she's just giggling to herself. Like, he's going to think this whole fucking pie is made out of his kids. That's amazing.
Ugh.
So, yeah, that's the end of the episode, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Just Marion showing up. And,
so
it's so cute. I like that.
So, based on previous Mark Gatiss episodes, which usually are just so unbelievably, like, weird and goofy, I think this was one of the better ones.
I would agree with that. Was he the ice Martian? Ice warrior? Was that him?
I don't think so. I'm going to this episode really quick. My computer's being a bitch at the moment. It's taking its time. Mark Gatiss, written by... Sorry.
Okay.
God, if he didn't have so many damn acting credits, I would be able to get to this faster. It's prolific. Doctor Who. He did write the Ice.
That's what I thought.
Martians.
And that was a particularly bad one. I really hated that one.
Yeah, The Unquiet Dead and The Idiot's Lantern, which were the World War II Are You My Mummy?
Right.
Victory of the Daleks, which was the World War II Daleks.
Right.
Night Terrors, which was the Alien Kid. Right?
With the apartment complex.
Yeah.
Which started out really cool and kind of like, it didn't really work in the end, but it was a really neat idea that was effective for a lot of the episode.
Cold War, The Crimson Horror, which is one of our least favorite
bad.
episodes ever. And then this one, and then a couple more upcoming.
The Crimson Horror. God, I forgot about that. What a weird non-thing that was. Such a cool idea. Again, he has these, like, conceptually, they seem like they would be really beautiful and, like, you could do a lot with them. And then he just doesn't really, like, seem to get what the actual part of the storytelling. Like, he doesn't seem to zero in on that at all. It feels like he gets stuck on the concept and the aesthetic completely. And that's all he really rolls with.
Yeah, sometimes.
You know what I mean? But I like this one. I thought this was fun.
So this is an interesting piece of trivia.
Okay.
A scene in which the Sheriff of Nottingham was beheaded, revealing him to be a robot, was edited out of this episode's broadcast as it was deemed inappropriate in light of recent events in the news, namely the beheading of 2 American journalists by the terrorist group ISIS.
Wow.
The cut can clearly be seen in the finished program when the tapestry behind Clara and the Doctor vanishes before Robin cuts the rope and rises to the wooden gantries. However, the admission of the sheriff that he was half man, half engine, and the scene showing his hands in the vat of molten gold make up for the editing gap. I wouldn't have noticed. Like, I didn't think that there was any weirdness or anything missing from the comeuppance of the sheriff.
No.
So,
I mean, I saw his hands in the gold, but I didn't realize that it was like, that they were robot hands.
I didn't either. I thought they were just, like, covered in gold. And then one of the images brought up on the computer screen is of Patrick Troughton, the actor who portrayed the second Doctor, who was also the first actor to play Robin Hood on television.
Oh. Well, there was a Robin Hood TV show?
Guess so.
We should do that shit again. Except, like, modern day.
Because the second Doctor, I mean, that was way back in the 60s. I guess the Robin Hood series was probably after, maybe? I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but I'm not surprised. It seems like this is one of those things that they would have gone to for a television series by now.
Well, it's like Leverage, but for the medieval era.
Right? It'd be kind of fun. Is it public domain? Because if it is, I'm sure we can expect it.
I don't know.
At some point.
I really would like a redo of Leverage. Where...
I would too, without Timothy What's-His-Face.
Who?
Timothy Hutton.
Why? Is he Batman?
Yes.
Oh no, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Well, I just feel like that show, it's one of those that, like, I get what they were trying to do, but they would just ignore the reality of things so completely. Like, at one point, they, like, drive a fucking literal, like, semi-truck up to a nonprofit, open the back trailer, and it's full of cash. And they just go, here you go, you're welcome, and then leave. Like, that wouldn't be an enormous, like, violation that would get them investigated and audited by the IRS. And I was just like, you can't just give people millions of dollars in cash and then leave. You stole this from somebody who will report it, and I'm certain that those bills are marked. They're going to be fucking nailed for this, guys. What are you doing?
Jason went to high school with Christian Kane. Is that his name? Yeah, they went to high school. I think Christian was like a year or two ahead of him.
Okay. I had a massive crush on him for a while.
I mean, didn't anybody who watched Angel?
Yeah, he was fine in that.
Yeah.
He strikes me as somebody who was a douchebag, though.
He didn't really know him. He said he went by Chris, and he was short.
Yeah. I found out, like, what his height was, and was like, I think he's, like, my height. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. But he didn't really know him, so he didn't have any, like, gossipy gossip.
Yeah, what can you do?
I do like Leverage a lot, though. I never finished it.
I didn't either.
I think I switched over to White Collar, which also has a bit of, like, you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but is such a fun ride. So if you haven't watched White Collar, give that a...
I feel like I started it, and I never, like... I don't even know if I finished the first episode, and I can't remember why.
Oh, it's really fun.
I feel like I might have had it on when Owen was home, and he was just being a snark about it, and I was like, oh, fine, put The Simpsons on again.
Chris actually went to college with Matt Bomer. She's friends with him.
Matt Bomer is the lead from...
White Collar.
She's friends with him. She knows everybody. There's always a connection. 6 Degrees of Krista.
That's what I said. I was like, when are we going to start that podcast? Just 6 Degrees of Krista. Like, because who don't you fucking know?
That's funny. I like that. That's going to be a thing now. We'll start doing that with every episode. We're going to have to get in touch with her and be like, all right, so for our segment this week, do you know this person? And how? Because we know you do.
Or just like, okay, so we're talking about this person. They were in this thing with Matt Bomer. Matt Bomer's friends with Krista. Yep. Got it. Three
there
jumps.
It is. Well, I guess I already talked about, because I was about to say, announcements, but I've already talked about how after Korra is over, Owen and I are going to start with Clone Wars. And those of you who are...
About when will that be?
Probably like 2 weeks from now. We've had a really hard time getting recording time together because with COVID, things have just been a little bit more bonkers. And poor Owen, it's just been like a nonstop fucking crisis of one kind or another. And every time that we think we're going to have time, he gets called in for some reason. It's just doesn't stop.
I feel that.
So
I worked 7 days straight because people kept getting sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Luckily, none of them had COVID, but they all had fevers, and so I was like, you can't come to work.
Yeah, he's had a woman whose kid has like 104-degree fever, and so she's had to stay home, and he's had to cover her stuff, and the other day he didn't get home until like 2 a.m, and he had left at like 8:30. Yeah, he's just... So our goal had been to record once a week, but it's just not always able to happen that way.
How do people go about subscribing to this?
So there's no subscription. We just release each episode on the website, and you can buy them for $1 each. I'm going to update the website when this comes out so that it'll be a little bit easier to see, because right now you have to scroll down to see what's for sale. But I'm going to try and put it up higher so that it'll be a little bit simpler for people to find it. And also, whenever an episode comes out, I post the link to it on Facebook and Twitter and in the Mighty Network and on the patron group. So probably you won't miss it. But even if you do, you can just check the site, and the thumbnail, will be up there.
How can you go about getting that onto your phone?
You download the MP3 from the website. Or you can just play it from the website. Get that. You can do either one.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that is going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. And it's unspoiledpodcast.com if you guys want to check that out. And also, I posted for patrons the Battleground coverage that Krista and I did, the spoiler episode for Dresden Files. And that won't be going on the main Dresden Files feed, because if you just play episodes straight through, I don't want there to be a sudden massive spoiler dump that you didn't realize you had to skip in the midst of your playlist, because I've had that happen and it's the fucking worst. So it will only be on the patron thing. But if you're not a patron, you can go and watch the crowdcast. And that will be, if you just go to website, unspoiledpodcast.com, on the left sidebar, it'll be click here for live events, and it will bring you to the Unspoiled Crowdcast page, and you just search the title for whatever it is that you're wanting to watch, and they'll show it to you. There's a lot there, so I wouldn't recommend scrolling to find it, because I don't know how long that will take, but you can search it, and I recommend that. And new patrons this week. We have Sydney Schmitz, Joanne Jones, Jackie Nemeth, Brain Case, Majo Na, Broderick, Matt, Aaron Schwartz, Rowan, Francis DeBrunner, Julian Classic, Alicia Nelson, and Tiasia Simmons. Tiasia Simmons? I'm not sure, but Tiasia? There's all kinds of ways that you could say that. But welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for becoming patrons and for pledging. We're still in the midst of covering Mistborn, me and Miles, for $5 net patrons. And the upcoming Unsober, which is going to be recorded live the day before Valentine's Day, is going to be on the movie Ghost.
Oh my god, how random.
I have not seen this movie, and the lore for it, evidently, is very relevant to the Dresden Files that we're covering right now. The title of which is Ghost Story. So, Rashawn keeps referencing it and being like, well, in Ghost, and I'm just like, I haven't seen it. And she finally was like, you have to watch it. I want to talk about it with you. So
I can't believe you haven't seen Ghost.
I have not seen a lot of kind of classics, That's part of why we covered The Exorcist one year as well, because Rashawn just kept trying to talk to me about it. I'm like, I haven't seen it. And it was really good. I really liked it. But yeah, so...
My dad saw that in the theater, and he said people were running out vomiting.
I mean, that feels a little much, but...
At the time it just was so different from what anybody had ever seen. When I finally saw it, I don't know if I was just desensitized to movie violence or movie gore or whatever, but I was like, really? This is kind of boring, though. Seriously? He's like, grown men running out.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I was, never really interested in watching it because I'm not somebody who, believes in demons and stuff. And whenever there's, a story that seems centered around, especially, Catholic imagery of demons and, all of it, it just doesn't resonate with me. I don't find it scary. I just think it's just silly, But I really, really liked in The Exorcist how it all revolves around a priest who also doesn't believe anymore. He's completely lost his faith, and he's not coming at this with any sort of zeal. He doesn't even think that it's real. And that was very different twist on it that I didn't expect. And so it sort of like dodged around my like hang-ups about that type of story very neatly and managed to get me invested despite myself.
You know what show you might like based on that is Evil.
I haven't even heard of that.
It was on CBS last season. That was the first season. I don't know when the second season's going to start because of COVID. Like, things aren't normal. But it's Mike Coulter, who played Luke Cage, is he'd been training to be a priest. And then Ben Linus from Lost. Weird. And the girl who played Ed Harris's daughter on the second season of Westworld. And she's, like, completely skeptical, and they're, like, looking into these, like, supposed evil things that are happening, and she's, like, ready to debunk everything, and it's really good.
That's interesting, yeah. Yeah, I just, it's like, because sometimes you have a story that's, like, ghosts or demons or whatever, and a person's super skeptical, and you're just like, oh my god, we all know why we're here. There's a ghost. Can we just fast forward past the part where everybody doesn't believe in it? But
right.
the way that they handled it with The Exorcist, it was like, that was half the plot, was just this man struggling with, like, have I devoted my entire life to a lie? Oh my god. This, like, real sort of crisis that he was in. And
isn't The Exorcist based on a true story?
I didn't think so. I think it's just based on a novel.
Oh, is it just a novel?
I think
okay.
So. But yeah, so... Anyway, that's going to be the Unsober. We'll be talking about Ghost, day before Valentine's Day.
Well, that'll be fun. You get that whole Unchained Melody romantic thing that everybody references.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I'm going to have that song in my head for like a month after, I can tell.
Probably.
And I feel like there was another thing I was going to announce, but I can't remember now. Just in case anybody's reading along, Rashawn and I are dropping back to 2 chapters per episode now for Song of Ice and Fire. So, I think that's it. I think that's everything. Also, side note for me, if anybody listening to this is somebody who is good at building apps, hit me up, because I just have been like feeling real unsatisfied with everything lately. And I just want to get an idea of, I've tried, I tried searching for app developers, and I either get incredibly shady individuals who email me with emails riddled with spelling errors and a sense of real, like, yeah, you're either not real or you're a fucking scam artist. Or I find places that are like, is your budget between $50,000 and $75,000 or $100,000 and $125,000 kind of thing? I would love to find a happy medium where it's like, something reasonable that I could make into a real community. And I really, really like Mighty Network, and I want to keep that for as long as possible. But it doesn't do everything that I want. And recently, a community that I'm involved with for women's weightlifting, the community released an app so that people don't have to go to Facebook anymore. And their app is great. And it's like blowing me away how functional it is and how it does exactly what I was hoping Mighty Network would do, and doesn't quite. And I want something like that. But they are a very big group with money, and I don't know. Like, I even got in touch and asked, hey, who did you use? And she said, well, it's custom built by some developers that we have working for us. Like, there are people. So, it's not something that I can go and get an estimate from them. And I was like, bummer, okay. So, yeah, if you or anyone you know is good at that, get in touch with me. I know somebody had reached out to me, and forgive me, I'm forgetting who it was. And they were like, make me a wish list of everything you want for your app. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I really do have to get on doing that. And then I never did. So apologies to you if you're listening and you're like, Natasha, I tried to help you, and you fucking just never got back to me. Yeah, that's my bad. I did do that. I'm sorry. I'd be like that sometimes.
Look, it's not like you have nothing on your plate.
I mean, that Yama the other day was messaging with me because I was trying to figure out something that had gone wrong with the Dark finale recording, and she was like, how do you keep it all straight? And I said, oh, the secret is I fuck up a lot. That's how I do it, is badly sometimes. I managed to, like, scrape it all back together, so eventually it'll work. But in the meantime, it's a mess.
I do wonder that about you when, you know, you're covering so many different things for Spoil Me, and then also covering so many different things just for your regular shows. And especially when you're reading, like, multiple books at the same time, I just don't know how you keep everything straight.
It's not too bad most of the time, because the worlds are also very distinct, that I don't get confused frequently. It's like really just trying to remember all the names, you know, and sometimes I'll switch names and it'll be, a name from another property, but often it's not even that. It's just straight up like, who's that? What's his name? I can't remember who she is. The one thing that really fucked me up, though, this past couple weeks, there was a 4-month gap between, like, the 3rd episode of season 3 of Dark and the 4th one. And anybody who's watched Dark knows that show is so complicated. And there's, like, 4 versions of every character. And 4 versions of different ages as well. Like, so if you take too long between viewings, you will have no idea what's going on. And it was the first time I was watching the 4th episode after this long break, and I was almost in tears because I had no clue what was happening, and I was about to have to record on it. And the episode wasn't over yet, and I had no time to, like, rewatch it or refresh myself with something else. And I was lost, completely lost. And I did my best, but, you know, it's hard to know sometimes, like, did I just, like, completely fuck that up? I'm so sorry. Somebody paid for this. But also, that's part of why I have the restriction of, like, 2 months max. And I'm pretty lax about that. Usually I'll let it go to 3 months because I understand. But once we start getting into 4 months, it's too long. I can't remember, guys. So, anyway, is there anything you want to add before we wrap?
No. I'm good. All right. Listen to the Vampire Diaries if you are so inclined. We are having fun with it.
What season are you on now?
Season 4.
Okay, cool.
We're just now getting to the episode where everything sort of ramps up. This has been a pretty slow build to get to this point, and I know Chris has been frustrated, and it's been a lot of boring stuff. A lot of repetitive crap that is not normally part of this show because it usually moves at a much quicker pace, and now we're getting to the point where everything, like, goes bananas, which is what you want from the Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, for sure. Again, shows are good when they, like, accept what they are and don't try and, like, pretend they're a different thing. Just be bonkers. Yeah, it's just, go ahead. That's what we want.
It's just been 13 episodes of Elena whining about being a vampire. And I'm ready for the switch because that's happening. Yeah. And it's going to be great. So that's it. Listen to us talk about the Vampire Diaries. 2 adult women talking about teenagers.
Yay! All right, guys. Well, thank you again so much for listening, and hope that you have been enjoying this season's coverage, despite the fact that we had no episode 1. And sorry about that.
Someone did message me and was like, so are you guys going to re-record that episode? And I just went, no.
I want people to understand how incredibly demoralizing it is to re-record an episode.
You can never get the magic back.
Yeah, it's just, I will do it occasionally if a portion of something is missing. But if a whole episode is lost, I'm not redoing that. I will figure out something sometimes. Like, losing the lightning shot tower or whatever it's called, chapter episode from Harry Potter. There was no way to re-record that. Like, I read it live. Like, what? But we figured out something with having Chris on instead, and that worked out really, really well. But most of the time, a re-recording is just going to be a lot of us sighing and going, well, we said this already, but last time we were talking about, and it's just going to feel really weird. So
And half the time we don't remember exactly what we said to start with, so it would be a lot of, like,
did I say
trying
this?
to remember what we're talking about. Yeah.
And also, the first episode is, like, kind of a mess. It was fun, and I actually liked that one. But it didn't feel like... Some episodes I'm like, yeah, we really don't want to skip this one. And as much as one would think that would be the case with the first episode of The New Doctor, it isn't really. It's fine. You know, so... it's fine. It's fine. I did get a couple people who were like, did I miss the first? And it's like, in the text for the episode, I said, hey, sorry we didn't have anything to post last week. And in the opening of the episode, I was like, yeah, this isn't episode 1, it's 2. But nobody reads, nobody listens to me. Everybody just immediately is like, hey, guys, just trust me sometimes. Just read the thing. It's fine. Just for a second.
I'm in this group that is for the upcoming Shadow and Bone show, because I basically joined it so that if a trailer drops, I won't miss that. And a bunch of pictures dropped yesterday from the show. So it's the first time we're seeing costumes and that kind of thing. And someone asked, who is this character? I don't remember this name from the books. And a bunch of people answered, and the person who made the post was like, I haven't finished the books and you're spoiling me. And I never comment on these things. And I was like, you can't really be mad when you did not say anywhere that you hadn't finished the books, and you also didn't say, please no spoilers. You asked a question and it got answered.
Yep. Yeah, that's nonsense. People are hilarious. I swear to God. Like, there was a post or a meme that somebody shared with me where somebody posts, like, I'm making 10-inch pecan pies for $5 each. If you'd like one, please call such and such to place an order. And the comments are, oh my God, what kind of pie? How do I get one? How much are you charging? Will you make peach? I really don't like pecan. It's the fucking truest shit I have ever seen in my life. Even just a simple thing where I'm like an announcement about like, hey, we're thinking of covering this. What do you think? Inevitably, there's somebody who's like, well, what about this other thing that's totally unrelated to what you're talking about right now? No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about this to see, you know, like.
To gather how much interest there is in it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe people do that because they're like hoping that a bunch of people will respond to their comment and be like, oh my God, yes, this is much more interesting to me than the other thing. But that never happens. They don't like that. That just doesn't happen. So it always just looks like, what are you doing here? This clearly then this conversation is not for you, and it's fine. You don't have to like contribute on whether you care. If you don't care, then you don't. It's okay.
Staying quiet is free.
It's free.
Yeah. But
yeah, I try so hard to like put information everywhere I can for everything, you know?
I know.
And it's never enough. It never is. What can you do?
You can't do anything. And that's the thing. Like, you can be frustrated, but at some point you just have to be like, ugh. Mm-hmm. I mean, the information was there, but
yeah.
Final answer to your question.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. We love you. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.